Danny didn't sleep that night. He lay in his small bed in the staff quarters, staring at the ceiling. Every few minutes, his communication device would beep with another angry message from someone he had never met. He finally turned it off, but he could still hear other devices beeping in the rooms around him. The whole station was buzzing with activity. At 5 in the morning, someone knocked on his door. Danny got up and looked through the small window. It was Jake from maintenance, holding a cup of coffee. "Can I come in?" Jake asked when Danny opened the door. Danny stepped aside and Jake walked into the tiny room. He handed Danny the coffee and sat down on the only chair. "How bad is it out there?" Danny asked. Jake shook his head. "Pretty bad. The news crew started arriving an hour ago. There are reporters from 12 different worlds setting up in the main lobby." Danny sat down on his bed. "News crews?" "The story is huge, Danny. People are calling it the biggest insult to human dignity in 50 years. Jake sipped his coffee. "They're comparing it to the time that politician on Venus said Earth people were primitive. But that's not what I meant," Danny said. "I know, but that's not how people are seeing it." Jake pulled out his communication device. "Look at this." The screen showed social media posts from across human space. People were sharing the video of Danny insulting Keanu Reeves. They were adding their own comments, and most of them were very angry. "Some kid on Mars Colony 2 started a petition to get you fired," Jake said. "It already has 2 million signatures." Danny put his head in his hands. 2 million? There's also a group organizing boycotts of any hotel chain that keeps you employed. Jake scrolled through more posts. "And Danny, some of these people are making serious threats. Security is worried." Before Danny could respond, his door chimed. Both men looked at the entrance screen. It was Patricia Wells, and she looked tired and stressed. Danny opened the door. "Miss Wells, we need to talk," she said. "Both of you, actually." "Jake, you're his friend, right?" Jake nodded. "I try to be." "Good. Danny might need a friend today." Patricia looked around the small room. "This won't take long." She sat down on Danny's bed and pulled out her tablet. "Danny, I've been on conference calls with corporate headquarters for the past 6 hours. I've talked to executives, lawyers, and public relations specialists." "And?" Danny asked, though he was afraid of the answer. "The company is in crisis mode. Our stock price has dropped 15% since yesterday. Hotels on 20 different worlds are reporting cancellations. The board of directors is demanding immediate action." Jake set down his coffee cup. "What kind of action?" Patricia looked directly at Danny. "They want you fired today." Danny felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "I figured that would happen. It gets worse," Patricia continued. "They also want to make a public statement distancing the company from your actions. They want to make it clear that your behavior doesn't represent our values." "So I'm going to be the example," Danny said quietly. "I'm afraid so." Patricia touched her tablet screen. "Danny, I've been a manager for a long time. I've had to fire people before. But I've never had to fire someone while the entire galaxy was watching." Jake leaned forward. "What about Keanu Reeves? Has he said anything else?" Patricia nodded. "Actually, he has. Last night, he gave a longer statement to the media." She found the video on her tablet and turned it toward them. Keanu Reeves appeared on the screen, sitting in what looked like his hotel room. He was still wearing the wooden cross. "Want to address what happened yesterday?" Keanu said in his calm voice. "A young hotel worker made some comments about my cross that some people found offensive. I want everyone to know that I am not angry with this person. We all make mistakes. We all say things we later regret." Danny watched himself being defended by the man he had insulted. It made him feel even worse. Keanu continued speaking. "However, I do think this is a good time to talk about something important. This cross I wear isn't just a religious symbol, though it is that too. It represents our journey as a species. It reminds us where we came from and where we're going." Camera moved closer to show the cross clearly. "This piece of wood is from Earth, from a tree that grew in the soil of our homeworld. When humanity spread to the stars, we brought our hopes, our dreams, and our values with us. We didn't leave our humanity behind." Keanu looked directly into the camera. The young man who spoke to me yesterday grew up in the colonies. He doesn't remember Earth the way some of us do. But that doesn't make him a bad person. It makes him someone who needs to learn about his heritage." The video ended and Patricia put her tablet away. "He's still defending me," Danny said. "Which is making people even more angry," Patricia replied. "The comments on that video are brutal. People are saying if Keanu Reeves can be that forgiving, then you must be truly terrible for treating him badly." Jake stood up and walked to the small window. "Danny, there are protesters outside." "Protesters?" Danny joined him at the window. Below, in the station's main plaza, about 50 people were holding signs. Even from this distance, Danny could read some of them. "Fire Danny Martinez. Respect our heroes. Shame on Grandview. Hotel. They've been there since midnight," Patricia said. "Station security is keeping them peaceful, but more are arriving every hour." Danny watched the protesters and felt sick. "All because of what I said to one person, not just any person," Patricia reminded him. "Danny, you insulted someone who represents the best of humanity. People feel like you attacked something they care deeply about." Patricia's communication device beeped. She looked at it and sighed. "The press conference is in an hour." "Press conference?" Danny asked. "The company is going to announce your termination. Publicly, they want to show that they take this seriously." She looked at Danny with sympathy. "I'm sorry, Danny. I know you didn't mean for this to happen. But the decision has been made." Danny sat back down on his bed. "What happens to me after I'm fired?" Patricia and Jake looked at each other uncomfortably. "Danny," Patricia said gently, "this story has spread across every human world. Your name and face are known everywhere. Finding another job is going to be very difficult. Impossible, more like," Jake added quietly. "There's something else," Patricia said. "The company's lawyers want you to sign a statement apologizing for your actions. They think it might help calm things down." Danny looked up. "What if I don't?" "Want to sign it? Then they'll probably sue you for damaging the company's reputation." Patricia handed him a piece of paper. "Danny, I'd recommend signing it. It's your best chance of this blowing over eventually." Danny read the statement. It was full of legal language, but basically it said he was sorry for insulting Keanu Reeves and that he understood his actions were wrong. It also said he would never work in customer service again. "If I sign this, I can never work with people again." "Not in any public-facing job," Patricia confirmed. "Hotels, restaurants, retail stores, they'll all see this incident when they check your background." Danny looked at the paper in his hands. The one signature, he would be admitting he was wrong and giving up his career forever. Without it, he might face lawsuits and even more public anger. He picked up a pen and signed his name at the bottom. "Clean out my locker," he said quietly. Patricia stood up. "Danny, for what it's worth, I believe you're a good person who made a mistake. I hope someday you find a way to make this right." After she left, Danny sat alone with Jake in the small room. Outside, more protesters were arriving. The crowd was getting bigger and angrier. "Jake," Danny said, "what am I going to do with my life?" Jake didn't have an answer. Neither did Danny. All he knew was that 24 hours ago he had been a normal hotel worker with a normal life. Now he was the most hated person in human space. It was all because he had told a quiet man in simple clothes that he should go somewhere else. Danny walked through the hotel hallways toward Patricia Wells' office. His legs felt heavy, and his mouth was dry. Other staff members stopped talking when they saw him. Some looked at him with anger, others with pity. Word had spread fast through the station. The door to Patricia's office was made of real wood from Earth, expensive and rare. Danny knocked softly. "Come in," Patricia's voice called from inside. Danny opened the door and stepped into the office. Patricia Wells sat behind her. Large desk, but she wasn't alone. Captain Ryan Brooks, the commander of the entire space station, stood by the window, looking out at Earth. Danny had never seen the captain in person before. He was a tall man with gray hair and a serious face. "Sit down, Danny," Patricia said. Her voice was cold. Danny sat in the chair across from her desk. He could hear his heart beating in his ears. "Do you know why you're here?" Patricia asked. "Because of what happened with the guest today," Danny said quietly. Captain Brooks turned around from the window. The guest. Danny, do you have any idea who that guest is? I know now, Lisa told me. It's Keanu Reeves. Not just Keanu Reeves, Captain Brooks said. It's Keanu Reeves, the man who saved my home colony when I was a child. The man who paid for my education at the Space Academy. The man who is probably the most respected human being alive. Patricia touched her computer screen. Danny, in the past 3 hours, this station has received over 500 angry messages about what you did. The news story has been shared across 50 different worlds. I didn't mean for this to happen, Danny said. What exactly did you mean to happen? Captain Brooks asked. When you told one of humanity's greatest heroes to go to a lower-class station, what were you trying to accomplish? Danny looked down at his hands. I thought I was being helpful. I thought he might feel more comfortable somewhere else, because he wore a cross, Patricia said. Yes, Danny, that cross is a piece of human history. It's older than most of the colonies. It represents our connection to Earth and our journey to the stars. Captain Brooks sat down in the other chair next to Danny. Son, I've been in space for 30 years, seen humanity spread across the galaxy, but we never forget where we came from. That cross represents our past, our faith, our hope for the future. Patricia's computer beeped. She looked at the screen and frowned. Danny, the story just got picked up by Galactic News Network. It's now being broadcast to every human world, and he felt like he was going to be sick. What does that mean? It means billions of people are going to hear about what you did, Captain Brooks said, and they're not going to be happy about it. Patricia's communication device started ringing. Wells said it quickly. Wells here. She listened for a moment, then looked at Danny. Yes, he's here in my office now. More listening. I understand. Yes, we'll handle it. She hung up and looked at Danny. That was corporate headquarters on Luna Station. They want to know what we're going to do about this situation. What are my options? Danny asked Patricia, and Captain Brooks looked at each other. Finally, Patricia spoke. Danny, you've put us in a very difficult position. This isn't just about one rude comment to a guest. This has become a galactic incident. Captain Brooks leaned forward. The president of the Mars Colonial Council called me personally. The governor of Europa Station sent a formal complaint. Even the Earth Defense Force wants to know what happened. It's all because of what I said to one guest. Not just any guest, Patricia said. Danny, Keanu Reeves isn't just famous. He's a symbol. He represents the best of humanity. When you insulted him, people felt like you were insulting all of us. Patricia's computer beeped again. She looked at the screen, and her face went pale. Oh no, what is it? Captain Brooks asked. The video, Patricia said quietly. What video? Danny asked. Patricia turned her screen around so they could see it. Someone had recorded Danny's conversation with Keanu Reeves on their personal device. The video showed Danny pointing at the cross and telling Keanu to go to a lower-class station. It showed Keanu's quiet, dignified response. Who took this? Captain Brooks demanded. It doesn't matter, Patricia said. It's online now. Everyone can see exactly what happened. Danny watched the video of himself being rude to the quiet, polite man. Seeing it from the outside made it look even worse than he remembered. The man. In the video, Keanu Reeves looked hurt but said nothing mean in return. He just thanked Danny and walked away. Looked terrible, Danny whispered. You should, Captain Brooks said. Because that's how you acted. Patricia's phone rang again, and again, and again. She stopped answering after the 5th call. The phone hasn't stopped ringing, she said. Hotels across the galaxy want to know. If this is how we train our staff, government officials are asking if we have policies against religious discrimination. News reporters want interviews? What about Mr. Reeves? Danny asked. What has he said about all this? Captain Brooks pulled out his own communication device. Actually, he did make a statement. He found what he was looking for and read it. Out loud, I hold no ill will toward the young man who spoke to me today. Everyone deserves compassion and understanding. I hope this incident can become a learning opportunity for all of us. Danny felt even worse. He's defending me. That's what he does, Patricia said. Even when someone treats him badly, he responds with kindness. It's one of the reasons people love him so much. Captain Brooks put his device away. Danny, his kindness is making people even more angry at you. They're saying if Keanu Reeves can forgive you, but you haven't even apologized. I want to apologize, Danny said quickly. I want to make this right. It might be too late for that, Patricia said. She showed them her computer screen again. Look at the social media responses. Danny read the comments on the news posts. People were furious. They were calling for him to be fired. Some were saying he should never work in customer service again. Others were using words Danny had never heard before, but they sounded very bad. This is getting worse by the hour, Captain Brooks said. My security team is monitoring the situation. We're starting to get threats against the station itself. Threats? Danny asked. People are saying they'll never visit Grandview again as long as you work here. Some are talking about boycotts. Others are making more serious threats. Patricia rubbed her forehead. Danny, I've been a hotel manager for 15 years. I've dealt with complaints, accidents, even crimes. But I've never seen anything like this. What do I do? Danny asked. Right now, you go home, Patricia said. Don't talk to any reporters. Don't post anything online. Don't even leave your room unless you have to. Am I fired? Patricia and Captain Brooks looked at each other again. We're still discussing that, Patricia said. But Danny, you need to understand something. This isn't just about your job anymore. This is about the reputation of this station, this company, and honestly, how humans treat each other. Danny stood up slowly. I never meant for any of this to happen. I believe you, Captain Brooks said. But son, sometimes our actions have consequences we never expected. Sometimes a few words can change everything. Danny walked toward the door. As he reached for the handle, Patricia called out to him, Danny, one more thing. Don't try to contact Mr. Reeves directly. His security team has been notified about the situation. Any attempt to approach him could make things much worse. Danny nodded and left the office. As he walked back to his room, he could hear people talking about him. Workers, guests, even security guards. Everyone knew what he had done. In just one day, he had gone from being nobody special to being the most hated person in human space. And it was all because of a few careless words to a man wearing a wooden cross. 3 weeks had passed since Danny was fired from the hotel. He had been living in a small, cheap apartment on the lower levels of the space station. His savings were almost gone, and nobody would hire him. Every time he applied for a job, employers would search his name online and find the story about insulting Keanu Reeves. Danny spent most of his time in his apartment, afraid to go out. When he did leave to buy food, people would recognize him and point. Some would say mean things. Others would just stare and shake their heads. He felt like the loneliest person in the galaxy. On a Tuesday morning, someone knocked on his door. Danny looked through the window and saw a woman he didn't recognize. She was middle-aged with short gray hair and wore simple but nice clothes. Mr. Martinez? She said when he opened the door. My name is Carol Stevens. I work for the Reeves Foundation. Danny's heart started beating faster. The what? May I come in? Mr. Reeves would like to speak with you. Danny's mouth fell open. Keanu Reeves wants to talk to me? He does. He's been following your situation since the incident. At the hotel, Danny stepped aside and let Carol into his small apartment. She looked around at the bare walls and single chair. Mr. Martinez, I know the past few weeks have been difficult for you. It's one way to put it, Danny said. I can't find work. Anywhere. People hate me across the entire galaxy. Carol sat down on Danny's bed, since there was nowhere else to sit. Mr. Reeves feels partially responsible for what's happened to you. Responsible. But I'm the one who insulted him. Yes, but he believes the public reaction has been too harsh. He thinks you've been punished enough. Danny sat down on the floor. Since Carol had taken the only other place to sit, so what does he want? He wants to meet with you. To talk. He has a proposal that might help both of you. Danny was quiet for a moment. Why would he want to help me? I was terrible to him. Because that's who he is, Carol said simply. Mr. Reeves believes in second chances, believes people can learn and grow from their mistakes. Carol pulled out a small communication device. He's waiting in his room at the hotel. Would you be willing to see him? Danny thought about it. part of him was terrified to face the man he had insulted. But another part of him desperately wanted the chance to apologize. "Okay," he said quietly. "I'll go." 20 minutes later, Danny stood outside the presidential suite at the Grandview Hotel. It felt strange to be back in the place, where his life had fallen apart. Carol knocked on the door. "Come in," came Keanu's gentle voice from inside. The suite was huge and beautiful, with windows that looked out at Earth. Keanu Reeves sat in a simple chair by the window. He was wearing the same type of plain clothes as before, and the wooden cross still hung around his neck. Keanu said, standing up. "Thank you for coming." Danny didn't know what to say. "Mr. Reeves, I'm so sorry for what I said to you. I was wrong. I was ignorant and rude, and..." Keanu held up his hand. "Danny, please sit down. We need to talk, but not about apologies." Danny sat down in the chair across from Keanu. Carol sat on a couch nearby. "Tell me about yourself," Keanu said. "Where did you grow up?" "Mars Colony 7, Danny answered, still nervous. "What was it like there?" Danny wasn't sure why Keanu wanted to know, but he answered anyway. It was ... practical. Everything was about survival and building the colony. We learned about engineering, agriculture, life support systems. We didn't have time for much else. "Did you learn about Earth history?" Danny shook his head. "Not really. We knew Earth existed, obviously. But it seemed so far away and ... old. We were focused on the future, not the past." Keanu nodded. "And that's exactly the problem." "What do you mean?" Keanu touched his cross. Gently. "Danny, you're not the first young person from the colonies who doesn't understand Earth's importance. There are millions of kids growing up on different worlds who know nothing about where humanity came from." "But why does that matter?" Danny asked. "We're in space now. We have new worlds, new technology. Because if we forget where we came from, we lose who we are," Keanu said. "This cross isn't just a piece of wood to me. It connects me to my grandmother, to Earth, to thousands of years of human history. When we lose that connection, we lose part of our humanity." Carol leaned forward. "Danny, Mr. Reeves has been working on a project for the past few years. He wants to create educational programs for young people in the colonies. Programs that teach them about human heritage and culture. The problem is," Keanu continued, "most of the people working on these programs are old like me. We lived on Earth. We remember what it was like. But we're not good at reaching young people who grew up in space." Danny was starting to understand. "You want me to help with this?" "I want you to lead it," Keanu said. "Danny, what happened between us has shown the galaxy something important. It's shown that there's a gap between the old and new generations of humanity. You could help bridge that gap." "But I don't know anything about history or culture," Danny protested. "You can learn," Keanu said. "More importantly, you understand what it's like to grow up in the colonies. You know how young people think? Out there." Carol pulled out a tablet and showed it to Danny. "We've been developing educational materials for months. Interactive programs that teach Earth history in ways that make sense to colony kids. But we need someone young to help us make them better." Danny looked at the screen. There were videos, games, and virtual reality programs, all designed to teach young people about Earth and human heritage. "This is amazing," Danny said. "But why me? Why would you trust me after what I did?" Keanu smiled for the first time since Danny had met him. "Because you made a mistake and you learned from it. Because you know what it's like to be ignorant about these things. And because everyone deserves a second chance, what would I have to do?" "Travel to different colonies," Carol explained. "Visit schools and youth centers. Help us understand what young people want to learn and how they want to learn it. Test our programs and make them better." "It wouldn't be easy," Keanu added. "People recognize you now. Some will be angry when they see you, but others might listen to your story about learning and growing." Danny thought about it. For weeks he had felt hopeless. He had thought his life was over. Now someone was offering him a chance to do something meaningful. "What about the people who hate me?" Danny asked. "Some always will," Keanu said honestly. "But others will see that you're trying to make things right. People respect someone who admits their mistakes and works to fix them." Danny looked out the window at Earth spinning slowly below them. "If I do this, if I help with your foundation, does that mean I'm forgiven?" Keanu stood up and walked to the window. Danny, forgiveness isn't something you earn. It's something you accept. Forgave you the moment you walked away from my desk 3 weeks ago. But the rest of the galaxy... The rest of the galaxy will forgive you when you show them you've changed. The best way to do that is to help other young people. Avoid making the same mistakes you did. Danny stood up and joined Keanu at the window. I want to do this. I want to help. Keanu extended his hand. Then welcome to the Reeves Foundation, Danny. Let's go change the galaxy, one young person at a time. As Danny shook Keanu's hand, he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Maybe his story wasn't over after all. He was just beginning. Danny's shift ended at 6 o'clock, but he couldn't stop thinking about what Lisa had said. He sat in the staff break room, staring at his food tray without eating. The other workers kept looking at him and whispering to each other. It felt like everyone was talking about him. Lisa walked into the break room and sat down across from Danny. She had a small tablet computer in her hands. We need to talk, she said. I don't want to hear any more about this Reeves guy, Danny said. We're all making a big deal out of nothing. Danny, look at me. Lisa's voice was serious. I've been working in hotels for 20 years. I've met presidents, movie stars, and rich business people, but I have never been as scared as I was today when I heard you talk to that man. Scared? Why would you be scared? Lisa turned on her tablet and slid it across the table. Because of this. The screen showed a picture of a younger man with dark hair. Under the picture were the words Keanu Reeves, born 1964, Earth. Honey. Looked at the picture and then at Lisa. This doesn't prove anything. Lots of people have the same name. Keep reading, Lisa said. Donnie looked back at the screen. The article was long, but he started reading anyway. As he read, his face got paler and paler. Keanu Reeves had been born on Earth over 200 years ago. He had been a famous actor in old movies that people still watched. But that was just the beginning of his story. When the first space colonies were built, he had used his money to help families move to new worlds. When Mars Colony 3 ran out of food, he had personally organized supply ships to save them. When the Europa ice miners went on strike, he had gone there himself to help work out a fair deal. This can't be the same person, Danny said. Nobody lives this long. Keep reading, Lisa said again. The article explained that Keanu Reeves had been one of the first people to use advanced life extension technology. Not because he wanted to live forever, but because people kept asking him to help with problems across human space. He couldn't be everywhere at once, but he could live long enough to help as many people as possible. Danny's hands were shaking. Now, even if this is true, how do you know the guy at the hotel is really him? Lisa reached over and touched the screen. The picture changed to show a more recent photo. It was the same man who had stood at Danny's desk just a few hours ago. The same face, the same gentle eyes, the same wooden cross around his neck. Oh no, Danny whispered. There's more, Lisa said. She touched the screen again. Read this part. The next section was about the cross that Keanu Reeves wore. It had belonged to his grandmother on Earth. She had given it to him before she died, back when he was still a young actor. The cross was made from wood that came from a tree in a place called Jerusalem on old Earth. When Earth became too polluted to live on and people started moving to space, most of the old religious items were left behind or destroyed. But Keanu had kept his grandmother's cross. Over the years, the cross had become famous, not because it was religious, but because it represented the connection between old Earth and the new human colonies. People would travel across the galaxy just to see it. Some said it was the most important historical object that humanity still had. He's been wearing that cross for over 200 years, Lisa said quietly. And you told him it was just old religious stuff. Danny put his head in his hands. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? You weren't supposed to know who he was, Lisa said. But you were supposed to treat him with respect. You were supposed to be polite to a guest, no matter what they looked like or what they wore. Danny looked up. What do I do now? Lisa touched the screen again. Now it showed news articles from across human space. Headlines like Keanu Reeves visits outer colonies and living legend continues charity work. There were pictures of him with children on different worlds, helping to build schools and hospitals. He's not just famous, Lisa said. He's beloved. There are people on 100 different worlds who owe their lives to him. There are colonies that exist because he helped start them. There are kids who can read because he built their schools. Danny felt sick to his stomach, but he didn't act famous. He was just quiet and polite. That's who he is, Lisa said. He never acts like he's better than anyone else. He never demands special treatment, just quietly helps people and tries to make the universe a better place. She touched the screen one more time. Now it showed a video. Danny could see Keanu Reeves standing in front of a group of children on what looked like a space station. He was reading them a story. The children were hanging on every word. This was taken last month, Lisa said. He was visiting an orphanage on Europa Station. Those kids had never met anyone famous before. He spent the whole day with them. Danny watched the video and felt worse and worse.
Ow.
The man in the video was the same man he had insulted. The same man he had told to go to a lower-class station. Lisa, Danny said slowly.
Ow.
How many people know what I did? Lisa looked uncomfortable. Well, there were other staff members around. And that guest in line heard everything. How many people is that? Maybe 10 or 15 people saw it happen? But Danny ... Lisa paused. You know how news travels in space? Someone probably already posted about it on the galactic network. Heart started beating faster. Posted what? That someone insulted Keanu Reeves? That a hotel worker was rude to the most beloved person in human space? Danny stood up quickly, knocking over his chair. I need to find him. I need to apologize. Danny, wait. Lisa grabbed his arm. You can't just go to his room. He's a guest. There are rules, but I have to do something. I have to fix this, Lisa looked at her tablet screen. It might be too late for that. What do you mean? Lisa turned the tablet around so Danny could see it. There was a new post on the Galactic News Network. The headline read, Hotel worker insults Keanu Reeves over religious symbol. It's already out there, Lisa said softly. People are starting to share it. Look at the comments. Danny read the comments under the news post. They were angry. Very angry. People were calling him terrible names. They were saying he should be fired. Some were saying worse things than that. This is bad, Danny said. This is very bad, Lisa agreed. Danny, you didn't just insult any guest. You insulted someone who millions of people consider a hero. Someone who represents the best of humanity. Danny sat back down. What's going to happen to me? I don't know, Lisa said. As if on cue, Danny's communication device beeped. He looked at the screen. It was a message from Patricia Wells, the hotel's general manager. Report to my office immediately. Danny looked at Lisa. This is it, isn't it? I'm going to get fired. Lisa nodded sadly. Probably. And Danny. That might be the least of your problems. This story is spreading across the galaxy. By tomorrow, everyone in human space is going to know what you did. Danny walked slowly toward the door. He felt like he was walking toward his execution. Just a few hours. His whole life had changed because of a few careless words to a guest wearing a cross. He had never heard of Keanu Reeves before today. Now he was about to become famous himself, but for all the wrong reasons. 2 years later, Danny Martinez stood in front of a classroom on Europa Station. 25 young people sat looking at him with curious faces. Most of them were around his age, born and raised in the colonies. They had heard his story before. He arrived. How many of you know who I am? Danny asked. Every hand in the room went up. And how many of you think I'm a terrible person because of what I did? About half the hands stayed up. Danny smiled. Good, I'm glad you're honest.
Right.
2 years ago, I probably would have thought the same thing about me.
That.
Danny walked to the front of the classroom where a large screen showed a picture of Earth. My name is Danny Martinez, and I'm the person who insulted Keanu Reeves at a hotel. I'm also the person who learned that making mistakes doesn't have to define your whole life. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. Are you here to tell us? We should all wear crosses and be religious. No, Danny said. I'm here to tell you about something much more important than religion. I'm here to tell you about where we came from and why it matters. Danny touched the screen, and the image changed to show a video of old Earth. Green forests, blue oceans, and cities full of people. This is Earth 300 years ago. This is where every human being in the galaxy can trace their family back to. Great-great-grandparents probably walked on that ground, breathed that air, looked up at those stars. A young man in the back called out, "So what? We live in space now. We don't need some old planet." Danny nodded. "I used to think the same thing. I thought Earth was just an old, used-up world that didn't matter anymore. But I was wrong." Screen changed to show pictures of the first space colonies, rough metal buildings and people in bulky spacesuits. When humans first came to space, life was hard. Really hard. People died building these colonies, gave up everything they knew on Earth to give us the life we have now. Danny clicked to the next image. It showed families saying goodbye at spaceports, people crying as they left Earth forever. Didn't leave Earth because they wanted to. They left because they had to. Earth was getting too crowded, too polluted. But they carried part of Earth with them. The screen now showed various objects: a wooden cross, a photograph, a small plant in a pot, a book. They brought memories, they brought traditions, they brought the things that made them human. And those things helped them stay connected to each other when space tried to make them feel alone. The young woman in front raised her hand again. "But we're not them. We were born here. Why should we care about some planet we've never seen?" Danny walked over to her desk. "What's your name?" "Amy." "Amy, where were you born?" "Europa Station." "And your parents?" "Europa Station too." "Your grandparents?" Amy thought for a moment. "I think they came from Mars. And before that, I don't." "No." Danny turned back to the screen. "This is why I'm here. Most young people in the colonies don't know their own family history. They don't know where they came from or how they got here." He clicked to a new image showing a family tree. "Amy, your family didn't just appear on Mars one day. Somewhere in your past, someone made the decision to leave Earth. Someone gave up everything they knew so that someday you could have a better life." The room was quiet now. The students were listening. The cross that Keanu Reeves wears isn't just about religion. It's about memory. It's about staying connected to the people who came before us. It's about remembering that we're all part of one big human family that started on one small planet. A boy near the window raised his hand. "But what difference does it make? We can't go back to Earth." "You're right," Danny said. "We can't go back, but we can remember. We can honor the people who made our lives possible. We can carry their values with us as we build new worlds." Danny pulled out his own communication device and showed them a picture. It was Keanu Reeves standing with a group of children on a space station. This picture was taken last week on Titan Station. Keanu Reeves is almost 250 years old now. He's one of the last people alive who actually lived on Earth. When he dies, we'll lose that connection forever. The students stared at the picture. In it, Keanu looked older, but still had the same gentle smile. The wooden cross was still around his neck. "That's why what I did was so wrong," Danny continued. "I didn't just insult one person. I insulted our history. I insulted the memory of everyone who sacrificed to get us here." Amy raised her hand again. "So what are we supposed to do about it?" Danny smiled. "Learn, ask questions. Talk to your parents and grandparents about where your family came from. Visit Earth if you can. Read books about human history. Watch old movies." He clicked to a new screen that showed a list of programs and activities. The Reeves Foundation has created all kinds of ways for young people to connect with human heritage. Virtual reality tours of old Earth cities, interactive games that teach you about different cultures, exchange programs where colony kids can visit Earth for a few months. A girl in the middle of the room spoke up. "Is it true that you work for Keanu Reeves now?" "I work for his foundation." "Yes, it's the best job I've ever had." Danny's voice was sincere. "Every day I get to help young people discover their own story. I get to watch them realize that they're part of something bigger than just their own colony or their own world." "Do you still feel bad about what you did?" the boy by the window asked. Danny thought for a moment. "Yes and no. I feel bad that I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. I feel bad that I was ignorant about my own heritage. I don't feel bad about where it led me. If I hadn't made that mistake, I never would have learned these things. I never would have met Mr. Reeves. I never would have found my purpose. The class was ending, but none of the students seemed ready to leave. One more question, Amy said. Have you ever apologized to him? To Keanu Reeves? Danny smiled. Many times. But you know what he always says? He says the best apology is living. A life that makes the mistake worthwhile. After the students left, Danny packed up his materials. His next stop was a youth center on Ganymede, then a school on Mars Colony 12. In 6 months, he would be opening a new cultural center on Proxima Station. It had been 2 years since the worst day of his life became the first day of his new life. People still recognized him sometimes, but now they usually said positive things. They thanked him for his work with young people. They told him how much their children had learned from the Foundation's programs. As Ian looked out the window at Jupiter's massive form, he thought about the wooden cross around Keanu Reeves' neck. He understood now that it wasn't just a piece of wood. It was a bridge between the past and the future. It was a reminder that no matter how far humans traveled, they carried Earth with them in their hearts. Danny touched the small pendant he now wore, a simple carving of Earth that Keanu had given him on his first day working for the Foundation. It reminded him every day that even the worst mistakes could become the foundation for something beautiful. The galaxy was big, but humanity was bigger. And Danny Martinez, the hotel worker who had once insulted a legend, was now helping to make sure that truth would never be forgotten. Danny Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the long line of guests waiting to check in. The orbital station Grandview was always busy, but today felt different. More people than usual were arriving for something called the Terran Heritage Festival. Danny had heard other workers talking about it, but he didn't really care. He just wanted to finish his shift and go home to his small room in the staff quarters. The station floated high above Earth, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Through the massive windows, Danny could see the blue and green planet. Below, he had been born on Mars Colony 7 and had never set foot on Earth. To him, it was just another world, no more special than any other. Next, Danny called out, not looking up from his computer screen. A man stepped forward to the desk. He was tall and had long dark hair with some gray in it. His clothes were simple, dark pants and a plain shirt. Nothing fancy like most of the guests who stayed at Grandview. The man moved quietly, almost like he was trying not to be noticed. "I have a reservation," the man said softly. His voice was calm and gentle. Danny looked up and saw something that made him frown. Around the man's neck was a wooden cross on a simple chain. It looked old and worn, like someone had been touching it for many years. "Name?" Danny asked, his eyes still on the cross. "Reeves. K. Reeves." Danny typed the name into his computer. The reservation came up right away. Presidential suite for 7 days. The room cost more per night than Danny made in a month. But looking at this man in his simple clothes, Danny couldn't understand why he was staying in such an expensive room. "Need to see your identification," Danny said. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. Danny scanned it and handed it back. Everything checked out, but something bothered him about this guest. "Sir," Danny said, pointing at the cross, "I need to let you know that we have guests from many different worlds here. Some might find that ... He paused, trying to think of the right words. That old religious stuff a bit strange. The man looked down at his cross and then back at Danny. He didn't say anything, just nodded slightly. Danny felt emboldened by the man's silence. I mean, most people have moved past those old Earth traditions. We're in space now. No need to carry around symbols from the past. He leaned forward slightly. Maybe you'd be more comfortable at one of the lower-level stations. They still have guests who believe in that kind of thing? Lisa Carter, who worked at the concierge desk nearby, stopped what she was doing. She stared at Danny with wide eyes, her mouth slightly open. She had been working at Grandview for 15 years, and had never heard a staff member talk to a guest like that. The man named Reeves touched his cross gently with one hand. "Thank you for the information," he said quietly. "I'll keep that in mind." Danny printed out the room keycard and slid it across the desk. "Your room is on the top floor. The elevator is to your right. Enjoy your stay, I guess." The man took the key card and nodded. "Thank you." He picked up his small bag, just one simple black case, and walked toward the elevators. As soon as the elevator doors closed, Lisa rushed over to Danny's desk. Her face was pale, and she looked like she might be sick. "Danny, do you have any idea what you just did?" she whispered. "What do you mean?" Danny shrugged. "I was just being honest." The guy looked out of place with that religious stuff. "Religious stuff?" Lisa's voice got higher. "Danny, do you know who that was? Some guy named Reeves?" "So what?" Lisa grabbed Danny's arm. "Not some guy. The Reeves. Keanu Reeves." Danny stared at her blankly. "Am I supposed to know who that is, Lisa?" Let go of his arm and stepped back. "You grew up in the colonies, didn't you?" "Yeah, Mars Colony 7. Why?" "That man you just insulted is probably the most respected person in all of human space. He's been alive for over 200 years. He's a legend." "Come on, Lisa. Nobody lives that long. And even if they did, so what? He's just another guest. Just another guest." Lisa's voice was getting louder, and other staff members were starting to look over. "Danny, that man has done more for humanity than anyone alive. He's helped colonies get started. He's donated billions of credits to charities. He's saved lives across the galaxy. If he's so important, why doesn't he dress like it?" Danny asked. "Why doesn't he act important?" "Because that's who he is," Lisa said. "He's humble. He's kind. He doesn't need to show off." She shook her head. "And you just told him he should go to a lower class station because of his cross." Danny was starting to feel uncomfortable. "Look, even if what you're saying is true, I was just doing my job. We're supposed to make sure guests feel comfortable. You weren't making him comfortable. You were insulting him." Lisa looked around to make sure no other guests were listening. "That cross he wears is from original Earth, before the Great Migration. It's one of the few things left from the old world." "It's just a piece of wood," Danny said, but his voice sounded less confident now. "It's not just a piece of wood to millions of people across human space. It represents our history. Our journey from Earth to the stars." Lisa paused. "And you just mocked it in front of the man who carries it as a symbol of hope for all humanity." Danny felt his stomach start to twist. "You're making this up. Nobody's that important." "Check the guest registry," Lisa said. "Look up his full name. Look up his history. Then tell me nobody is that important." Other staff members had gathered around now. Jake from maintenance, Maria from housekeeping, and even Paul from the restaurant. They all looked at Danny with expressions he couldn't quite read. "Is it true?" Jake asked. "Did Danny really insult Keanu Reeves?" "He told him to go to a lower class station," Lisa said. "Because of his cross," Maria gasped. "The Keanu Reeves? The one who saved the Mars colonies during the food crisis? The same one who built schools on Europa?" Paul added. Danny looked around at all the faces staring at him. For the first time since his shift started, he began to think that maybe he had made a mistake. A big mistake. "I need to get back to work," he said quietly, turning back to his computer screen. But the next guest in line had heard everything. The woman stepped forward and looked at Danny with disgust. "You should be ashamed of yourself," she said. "That man is a saint, and you treated him like garbage." Danny's hand shook as he reached for her identification. The day had started like any other, but something told him it was about to become the worst day of his life.